Good morning, everyone. Let's take our seat. We will start our morning plenary. السلام عليكم. صباح الخير السادة أعضاء الوفود.
Good morning, distinguished delegates. We will start the morning session and we will continue with agenda item 5, on statements by heads of delegations. We will continue to listen to the statements like yesterday. The first 3 speakers will be, as on the list, Indonesia, Senegal, and Peru. Before giving the floor to Indonesia, I would like to remind you to please keep your statements to no more than 5 minutes for each delegate. And the delegate who comes after him should be ready in the place dedicated for the speakers to save time. And now allow me to give the floor to representative of Indonesia, Ms. Yulia, Director of Climate Change Mitigation, Ministry of Environment and Forestry.
Good morning, Mr. President of the 13th meeting of COP to the Vienna Conventions, Excellencies, Executive Secretary of the UN Environment Ozone Secretariat, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the government and people of the Republic of Indonesia, I would like to convey our gratitude to the government of the Kingdom of Thailand and the Ozone Secretariat for convening this high-level segment, as well as for its strong and unwavering support in protecting the ozone layer and advancing climate action. I would also like to congratulate you, Mr. Yaqub Al-Matuk, as the president of the 13th meeting of COP to the Vienna Convention, and to Madam Karine James for assuming the presidency of this 36th MOP session. We are confident that your esteemed leadership will guide us towards practical and impactful outcomes for all parties. Mr. and Madam President, as a committed party to the Montreal Protocol, Indonesia has achieved a significant milestone by successfully completing the Stage 1 and is nearing the end of implementing Stage 2 of the HEFC Phase-Out Management Plan. In 2023, Indonesia surpassed its HEFC import reduction target, achieving a 60% reduction compared to the initial goal of 55%. We are now approaching the beginning of Stage 3 of the PMP, with a total HEFC phase-out targeted for 2030, and will focus on the RIC servicing sector, which utilizes HEFC 22 and HEFC 123, which is used in firefighting and chillers. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, World Ozone Day 2024 presents a timely opportunity to reflect on the significant progress achieved through Montreal Protocol, and in the process has also contributed to climate change mitigation by phasing down HEFC under the provision of the Kigali Amendment. In line with the theme Advancing Climate Action, Indonesia is raising public awareness about practical steps to minimize impact on the ozone layer and mitigate climate change. This includes supporting environmentally friendly technology by opting for refrigerant units with CFC and CFC-free and energy-saving star labels, and by ensuring regular servicing of refrigeration units by certified technician, and by adopting the 16 to 24 actions, which encourages setting air conditioner to 24 degrees Celsius to conserve energy. Excellencies, Madam President, by the end of this year, the Indonesian government will submit its second NDC to the UNFCCC Secretariat, which reaffirms its commitment to the Kigali Amendment to reduce HFC consumption. I would also like to emphasize that our government successfully implemented the licensing system for HFC in early 2024. Our dedication is reflected in our strengthened interministerial coordination to monitor HFC consumption, which includes a quarterly review of 2024 import data. The government of Indonesia is optimistic about achieving the target of freezing HFC consumption by the end of this year. Continue by starting with a 10% reduction in 2029 and gradually increase our efforts to reach an 80% reduction by 2045. As the world shifts to low GWP technologies, more capacity building is needed, particularly for Article 5 parties. Having learned from the past CFC phase-out and ongoing SCFC phase-out, the most challenging part is to ensure the sustainability of new technologies as well as its affordability, safety, and security. On that account, we appreciate the Multilateral Fund for opening more funding windows to assist Article 5 parties, such as the LRM. The growth of LRM companies focused on reclaiming and or destroying ODAs or HFC presents a valuable opportunity. It allows parties to surpass phase-out targets and manage unwanted refrigerants at their end life cycle. However, this must be approached carefully to avoid unnecessarily destroying refrigerants with remaining potential, especially as global refrigerant production declines. The possibility of earning carbon credit from ODS or HFC destruction further complicates the decision, even though Indonesia has stipulated series of carbon pricing instruments such as the Presidential Decree 98 in 2021. Therefore, prioritizing refrigerant reclamation whenever feasible and also reserving destruction for unavoidable cases should be paramount. Madam President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would like to express our commitment and support for the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. And I firmly believe that with full commitment from all parties, we can accomplish the protocol's long-term goals of a safe and sustainable environment for both present and future generations. I thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Madam. It is now the turn of Senegal, Mr. Baba Dreme, Director for Environmental Regulation and Control and National Ozone Focal Point. The next speaker will be Peru, followed by Turkey. Mr. Drame, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Madam President, Executive Secretary, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished heads of delegation, Excellencies. On behalf of the Government of the Republic of Senegal, I would like to thank the Kingdom and the people of Thailand for the very warm welcome and all facilities given to the Senegalese delegation for its participation to this 13th COP and the 36th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol. I would also like to express my thanks to the Ozone Secretariat for the efforts that have gone into an excellent meeting. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, with the disastrous consequences of climate change felt all over the world, humankind today is at a crossroads. And in this context, multilateral action aimed at combating the depletion of the ozone layer must be commensurate with the seriousness of the situation. And this is why, after having placed the international community on the track of a development which respects the ozone layer through the Vienna Convention and the Montreal Protocol, we today have the responsibility of integrating this challenge with the reduction of greenhouse gases which cause global warming, as the Kigali Amendment calls upon us to do. These two existential challenges challenge all countries and all continents and require international solidarity so that each country, regardless of its level of development, can duly fulfill its commitments. And on this score, I would like to say that I welcome the effective cooperation between the Republic of Senegal and the Ozone Secretariat, the Secretariat of the Multilateral Fund, and the multilateral and bilateral implementation agencies with whom we collaborate in implementing our national ozone program. I'm very pleased to note that unlike many multilateral agreements on the environment, the implementation of the Montreal Protocol and its various amendments has shown that it is absolutely possible, in spite of the diverse positions and national interests, it is possible to come up with tangible results that take into account the specific circumstances of each country, each party. Senegal considers that the current meeting of the parties and the conference must prepare the ground for reinforced action to face down this dual challenge that we have, namely protection of the ozone layer and mitigation of climate change. As you know, Article 5 countries, including Senegal, are committed to the implementation of the um, total elimination, total phase out of HCFCs by 2030 through the implementation of the HCFC phase out management plans and the phase down of the consumption of HFCs by 2050. The achievement of these plans or fulfillment of these plans, together with the action of all other states parties, will make it possible to contribute on a global level to limiting world temperature increases to 0.1 degrees Celsius by 2050 and 0.5 degrees Celsius by 2100. However, the success of these plans involving the implementation of sustainable cooling will involve the introduction of viable high performance alternatives which take into account the elevated ambient temperatures, the availability of on the market of new equipment. All of this involves major challenges that we must address. The use of these new technologies requires acquiring the knowledge by our engineers and technicians to be able to handle the risks and dangers associated with the manipulation of these natural fluids during the maintenance and repair of cooling installations and equipment. For all these reasons, Senegal expects very robust decisions to promote the synergy among the ministries responsible for the environment, which coordinate the implementation of the Kigali implementation plans, strengthen the collaboration with ministries responsible for energy efficiencies. The same applies to the combined financing of ozone programs and the programs on ozone and the climate to be able to arrive at combined actions to generate significant impacts. And that is where the integration of activities provided under the Kigali Amendment are significant. I welcome the efforts undertaken by the Ozone Secretariat to promote concerted action between these two ministerial departments in the French-speaking African countries. And by way of an example, we have the twinning workshops organized recently in Tunis. In conclusion, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to reiterate the commitment of the Republic of Senegal to spare no effort in supporting international cooperation to promote enhanced action to protect the ozone layer and the climate for our current and future generations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, sir. It is now the turn of Peru. Councillor Alvaro Salcido Tulu, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next speaker would be Turkey, followed by Tunisia.
Muchísimas gracias, señora Presidenta.
Thank you, President. Excellencies and distinguished colleagues, it is my pleasure to address you today and to convey warm greetings from the government of Peru, to give our thanks to the Kingdom of Thailand for their hospitality in hosting this meeting, to the Ozone Secretariat for its unwavering work for the implementation of the Montreal Protocol, to the co-chairs organizing the contact groups and the informal groups. I would also like to extend warm greetings to the Bureau for their great work. The Vienna Convention entered into force in 1988, the Montreal Protocol in 1989, thus beginning a story of success and commitment for state parties, because this is the only multilateral environmental agreement that has obtained universal ratification and that has successfully done away with the production and consumption of 98% of substances that deplete the ozone layer. This success would not have been possible without the Multilateral Fund for Implementation of the Montreal Protocol. It has enabled developing countries such as Peru to be able to meet its commitments under its international agreements. This international agreement is an example that multilateralism with clear objectives based on solid international cooperation can bring about the changes that we need. Peru ratified the Vienna Convention in 1989 and the Montreal Protocol in 1993. Over these decades, we have been consistent with our tradition of complying with our international agreements, and Peru therefore has phased out most of the ODSs that are controlled by the Montreal Protocol. Therefore, in accordance with our phase-out plan, Peru is now a country that is free of said substances. At the same time, in compliance with the Kigali Amendment, to which Peru is party, we have gradually phased out our HFCs, and therefore we would like to invite those states that have not yet ratified the amendment to join this global effort, which will benefit all of us. It is also noteworthy that the Montreal Protocol is one of the main global instruments that contribute to the fight against climate change, since the main enemies of ozone are also powerful greenhouse gases. Now, we've said this many times in this conference, but I would like to reiterate that science is clear. The window of opportunity to take more ambitious measures against climate change is growing ever narrower. If we do not act soon, jointly, in concrete terms, there will be no livable future for humanity. COP29 in Baku is an opportunity to bring the spirit of the Montreal Protocol to negotiating spaces. The fact is that countries like Peru are faced with a situation of high vulnerability and challenges vis-a-vis climate change. We have extreme weather events, floods, landslides, droughts, desertification, fires, loss of territory, and loss of biodiversity. All of these have impacts on ecosystems, health, infrastructure, productive activity, and local communities, not only in my country, not only in our region, but impacts on ecosystems in Latin America are going to have direct impacts on global ecosystems. I would like to conclude my statement by recalling the importance of international cooperation for the achievement of international objectives under environmental agreements such as the Vienna Convention and the Montreal Protocol. The outcomes of the workshop on life cycle refrigerant management on the 26th of October and the various different exchanges and experiences of parties to COP13 and MOP 36 make it quite clear that today international cooperation between states continues to be a cornerstone for the achievement of our objectives, not only under the Montreal Protocol, but under all international environmental agreements. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It is now the turn of Turkey. Mr. Merali Isar, Deputy Director from the Directorate of Climate Change, Ministry of Environment, Urbanization and Climate Change. The next speaker would be Tunisia, followed by Kenya. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable President, distinguished delegates, I would like to express my gratitude to Government of Thailand and the Ozone Secretariat for hosting 36th meeting of the parties in Bangkok and warm hospitality. For us, it is an honor to be a part of this organization and of these important and fruitful discussions. The Montreal Protocol has proven to be one of the most prominent examples of global cooperation for protecting life on Earth. Turkey has been contributing to joint efforts since its very beginning. As a party to the Vienna Convention and Montreal Protocol, Turkey is taking the necessary actions to comply with the protocol's obligations. Turkey also ratified the Kigali Amendment. Turkey is committed to completing the phase-out of HCFCs by 2025. Only HCFCs 22 is allowed for use in servicing, and there is no domestic production. In accordance with our obligations and commitments, we have established and have been implementing an online licensing system for each import and export for controlled substances. Additionally, since 2024, quota allocations for HFCs have been implemented for importers in line with amounts defined by the Ozone Secretariat. Also, the revised FCAS regulation published in September bans the export non-refillable cylinders contained FCAS to countries where their import is prohibited. As Turkey, we have established facilities to recovery, recycling, and reclamation of HFCs and HFCs to encourage use of reclaimed gases. We aim for these facilities to begin operation in 2025. Distinguished delegates, Turkey continues to intensify its efforts to protect ozone layer and combat climate change in full compliance with the protocol. We believe that we can achieve successful global outcomes if we continue to develop international cooperation and align our efforts. We recognize that we face and will continue to face many challenges. Yet, we believe more than ever in our shared will and strong culture of cooperation. These will enable us to meet the challenges ahead with strengthened cooperation. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is now the turn of Tunisia. Mr. Youssef Hamami, coordinator for the National Ozone Unit. The next speaker will be Kenya, followed by Timor-Leste. Please.
In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, Ms. Chairperson, ladies and gentlemen, at the beginning of my speech, I'm pleased to express my gratitude to the authorities in Thailand for their hospitality and to the Ozone Secretariat for their organization of this important meeting. Ms. President, Tunisia is one of the countries that gives importance to issues related to environment, particularly depleting the ozone layer and climate change. Tunis has embarked on has ratified the Vienna Convention and the Protocol in 1989 and has met its obligations since that date through implementing projects to remove the ozone depleting material and substances with the support of the multilateral fund and the help of some friendly countries and implementing agencies. Those projects initially enabled the full phase down of the CFCs and the halones and the methyl bromide and the solvents, the equivalent of 7.5 million tons of CO2. At the second phase of the protocol, ongoing work is for the phase down HTFC through implementing investment projects in several sectors and other non-investment projects that include particularly capacity building and training for the refrigerants. Tunisia has reduced its consumption of the substances by 55% or over 55% as of 2023, equivalent to 720,000 CO2 equivalent, which enabled it to commit to the timeline. Tunisia currently is working to establish a national system for training technicians and capacity building in the refrigerating centers. In this framework and to support our national efforts, we are in the process of preparing with other stakeholders to activate 2 centers for restoring and recovering and recycling these fluids and to establish a national policy on LRM and to implement a national program to support and rehabilitate the staff through the cooperation with the National School for technical and logistic aspects to confront illegal trading of controlled substances according to Montreal Protocol and to prepare the legal frameworks in this level. Regarding HFCs, Tunisia has put those substances at the national level in 1997, put them under control using the licensing system through having a legal framework to that end, and to have classifications for each substance and to update them in 2023. This has contributed in establishing an accurate data bank for those substances that enabled us to identify all their uses in all sectors. Tunisia has also ratified the Kigali amendments in 2021. In this context, Tunis, since the beginning of 2022, has developed a national plan for gradual phase out of HFC in cooperation with the UNIDO and with the support of the multilateral fund of the protocol in order to identify the plan for all investment and non-investment activities. This plan has been ratified by and accepted by the SAND in its 94th meeting. Despite all the efforts that were exerted since more than 3 decades, and since those substances are used in several vital sectors, Tunisia is deeply concerned, together with the international community, on the adverse environment impact of those gases on the climate, taking into consideration that Tunisia is classified as a country that is gravely impacted by climate change. We are also concerned with the increase of the cost of alternative technologies that are currently available, especially in the refrigerating sectors that use natural refrigerating fluids and their negative impact on the national economy. Despite all these concerns, Tunisia seeks to support international community in its efforts that aim at protecting environment from the negative impacts. Ms. Chairman, our goal is to protect our environment through a sustainable track, and the economic aspect is the right and is very important. At the same time, we should not forget the third dimension for sustainable development, which is the social dimension, because our work positively affects in creating jobs and taking gender into account. The right of people in a sound environment is a constitutional issue in our country. In the end, we reiterate our commitment to continue our contribution in international efforts to face the environment challenges, especially climate change, and protecting the ozone layer. Thank you for listening, and peace be upon you.
Thank you, sir. It is now the turn of Kenya, Mr. Marindani Kirui, Coordinator, National Ozone Unit, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. The next speaker would be from Timor-Leste, followed by Ecuador. Sir, you have the floor.
Okay. Madam President, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Madam President, first and foremost, I would like to congratulate you on your election as the President of the 36th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol on Substance that deplete the ozone layer. I wish to express on behalf of the government of Kenya and my delegation appreciation to the loyal Thai government for hosting the combined 13th meeting of the Conference of Parties to the Vienna Convention for the protection of the ozone layer and the 36th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol and its warm hospitality to my delegation. I would also like to congratulate and thank the Ozone Secretariat for successfully organizing this meeting. Madam President, Kenya acceded to the Vienna Convention for the protection of the ozone layer in November 1988 and ratified the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer in the same month, November 1988, and has ratified 5 Montreal Protocol amendments, namely the London, Copenhagen, Montreal, Beijing, and the Kigali amendments. Thus, Kenya is in compliance with the amendments to the Montreal Protocol and would like to encourage other parties that have not ratified any one of the amendments to do so as appropriate. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, it is worth highlighting that Kenya has taken proactive steps to implement the controlled substance regulations, which have been reviewed to encompass HFC licensing and quota systems, as well as for HFC plans to ensure that importers of controlled substances comply with control measures as by the schedules under the Kigali Amendment. Therefore, through close collaboration with the Customs and Border Control Department of the Kenya Revenue Authority and the National Environment Management Authority, the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry is committed to establishing rigorous control mechanisms for the importation of the controlled substances. This will involve the issuance of import licenses and permits to effectively combat illegal importation of such substances. Madam President, Kenya has developed the National Cooling Action Plan. The objective of the action plan is to enhance access to sustainable cooling for all Kenyans as a climate action intervention. You may be aware, cooling is one of the biggest contributors to global warming, and it uses refrigerants that are controlled by the Montreal Protocol. In view of this, there is need to target reducing emissions, improving energy efficiency, and climate-friendly actions to cooling. This would be important to take note of as countries prepare for COP29. Distinguished delegates, Kenya has put in place strategies to face down HFCs. As part of strategies to face down HFCs, the National Ozone Unit of the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, in collaboration with GIC Proclima, with funding from the government of France and funding from the government of Germany under the Green Cooling Initiative project, has trained over 200 custom officers along with other enforcement officers on control measures in import and export of controlled substances, and over 1,000 refrigeration and air conditioning service technicians in good practices during repair and maintenance of refrigeration equipment. Further, the rack service technicians have been trained on safe use of hydrocarbons and other natural refrigerants like carbon dioxide as substitutes to controlled substances. Madam President, Kenya is currently undertaking the Kigali HFC Implementation Plan, KIP, project preparation. The main purpose of preparing the KIP is the development of overarching strategy to allow the country to meet the reduction target in HFC consumption as agreed by the parties to the Montreal Protocol in the Kigali Amendment. Further, Kenya is developing a national plan for managing refrigeration and air conditioning equipment end of life, including handling of contaminated recovered refrigerants that might have been collected by the industry awaiting disposal. Madam President, the financial assistance from the Multilateral Fund to Article 5 parties has contributed to the success of the Montreal Protocol in that the use of the Multilateral Fund through the implementing and bilateral agencies has assisted in the phase-out down activities approved by the Executive Committee following the control measures under the Montreal schedules. In light of this, therefore, to maintain the success of the Article 5 parties in fulfilling their obligations under the Montreal Protocol, Kenya feels that it is important that the multilateral fund is enhanced to assist the Article 5 parties to deal with the controlled substances in a sustainable manner. Madam President, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I wish to mention that the workshop on live circle refrigerant management that was held on 27th October 2024 was important in that one of the aspects, capacity building, is crucial to Kenya, and we hope recommendations made would be fully implemented. To this end, we express our strong commitment and support to the successful implementation of the Montreal Protocol requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It is now the turn of Timor-Leste, Mr. Alves Gomes Martins, Environmental Coordinator, Ministry of Tourism and Environment. The next speaker will be Ecuador. Sir, you have the floor.
Madam President, honorable ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor to be here to represent the government and the people of Timor-Leste at the 30th Conference of Party to the Vienna Convention and 36th meeting of the party to the Montreal Protocol. Allow me to express our sincere gratitude to the government of Thailand for the warm hospitality extended to me and my delegation in this beautiful city of Bangkok. Our sincere gratitude goes also to UNEP Ozone Secretariat for excellent organization of this event meeting, and we recommend the Executive Secretary of the Ozone Secretariat for the leadership and combining this high-level segment. Madam President, we rejoice the community, our nation, and breathe the air of liberty through our independence 22 years ago. As we embark on the process of nation building, we are aware that Timor-Leste must also bear its share of responsibility to address various global problems. The deterioration of our natural environment and its impact are among such problems. For Timor-Leste, environmentally sound and sustainable, the development is not optional. It is a fitting tribute to our forefathers, ensure that the fruit of independence benefit the future generation for their good life and sustainability of environment. From the outset, Timor-Leste has shown its commitment to the protection of environment. Several international treaties on environmental protection were accessed to almost immediately after independence, including the Montreal Protocol on Substances that deplete the ozone layer and its amendment. Madam President, signed a section to the Vienna Convention in 2009. The government of Timor-Leste has been actively implementing the Montreal Protocol activities, including policies and regulations to control trade and reduce the dependence of controlled substances, training to build the national capacity to custom, enforcement officer and technician, sustaining services sector through certification program, raising awareness to stakeholders and general public, and promoting alternatives that are ozone and climatic friendly. Despite challenging due to rapid infrastructure development in the country, which has continues, efforts, Timor-Leste has successfully phased out conception of ozone depleting substances as per Montreal schedule with support of UNEP Compliant Assistance Program and ACFC Phase Down Management Plan with UNEP Ozone Action and UNDP as implemented agency. It In this regard, we truly appreciate the leadership of the Ozone Secretariat, commitment and collaboration of the party for addressing difficulties and challenges that Article 5 party have been encountering in the implementation of the Montreal Protocol. I wish to express our sincere thankful to the Executive Committee of Multilateral Fund and Secretariat for technical and financial assistance provided to us so far, and also thankful to the UNEP Ozone Action and UNDP, our implementing agency to the Multilateral Fund. Madam President, the Kigali Amendment represents a global effort to phase down consumption of the hydrofluorocarbon, or AFC, which are not ozone depleting, but potent greenhouse gases that have been contributing to the global warming. The Kigali Amendment is seen by us as a significant step in combating climate change and global warming, while continuing the successful legacy of the Montreal Protocol in protecting the ozone layer. Like other developing nations, Timor-Leste is facing a rising trend of AFC, which have been used as alternative to replace ACFC. As a small island developing state, Timor-Leste is very vulnerable to the impact of climatic change and fully recognize the role of the Kigali Amendment to reduce the rise in global temperatures. Our delegate has a pleasure to report that Timor-Leste is in the final stage of obtaining approval not only to ratify the Kigali Amendment, but also to amend our existing degree law on control of import and export ozone depleting substances to additionally include control import and export of AFCs and equipment containing controlled substances under the Montreal Protocol through our licensing system. Our country will dependently ratify the Kigali Amendment to join the journey with others to mitigate the climatic change through the phase down. Timor-Leste has further enhanced our monitoring, reporting, verification, and enforcement of license system through development HCFC and AFC, trade control module, under the national single window system. Madam President, while we are on our journey to phase down consumption under the Kigali Amendment, there are opportunities for parties to enhance our energy efficiency, represents, and our conditioning appliance while phase out ACFC or phase down AFC. The synergy between the phase out, phase down, and energy efficiency could render win-win benefit through strengthening collaboration between energy officer and national ozone officer. We would like to express our appreciation to the Multilateral Fund for approving the twinning workshop of Multilateral Protocol officer, energy efficiency, policymaker, and financial mechanisms focal point to support the Kigali Amendment objective, which enable our national ozone unit to start the dialogue with Energy Authority on the way forward to integrate energy efficiency as a part of ACFC phase out or AFC phase down, and vice versa. Since ratification of the Montreal Protocol in 2009, Timor-Leste has faced challenges on management of unwanted controlled substances through the limited experience of this industry and national challenges in dealing with the unwanted chemical. Our delegates have learned useful and practical experience from the resource person during the life cycle represents management organized by the Ozone Secretariat. We would like to express our appreciation to the Ozone Secretariat for their dedication to make this workshop successful. However, this is not the end. We are at the beginning of the journey for sound management of unwanted controlled substances. In our journey, we will summarize the Jensen, which we need to decide the direction that will lead us to the sustainable pathway to properly handle this issue in a holistic manner. Our delegate strongly with that the Article 5 party will have access to support the multilateral fund to address the challenges that all Article 5 are facing. Madam President, this implementation of the Kigali Amendment in conjunction with energy efficiency and life cycle represents management will require a coordination efforts across the various sectors of our society. It will involve improving our infrastructure, capacity building, and educating our people. However, Timor-Leste believes that with the support from the Ozone Secretariat, multilateral fund, and implemented agencies, we will overcome these challenges. Madam President, Timor-Leste recognizes exemplary support of the Ozone Secretariat, the Multilateral Fund Secretariat, and implemented agency as a guiding force in global environment governance, support countries, including Timor-Leste, during the implementation of multilateral protocol, obligation and preparation of Kigali Amendment ratification. Timor-Leste look forward to continuing our partnership as we work to implement the provision of this amendment. The expertise, resource, and guidance will be crucial in supporting Timor-Leste to build the capacity needed to meet our commitment as our environmental goals. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you, sir. It is now the turn of Ecuador, Mr. Romulo Armas, National Ozone Officer of Ecuador. Sir, you have the floor.
Señora Presidenta.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, colleagues, friends of the Montreal Protocol, it is an honor to address you on behalf of the government of Ecuador at this, the 36th meeting of the parties to the Montreal Protocol. We find ourselves at a critical juncture for humanity that are marked by the growing effects of climate change and energy challenges that are affecting much of the world, particularly our region, Latin America. We face difficult times where the availability of electrical energy has become an ever scarcer commodity, with an impact on the well-being of our societies and the capacity of our countries to prosper and develop sustainably. These challenges know no borders and remind us of the urgent need to act today with determination and responsibility. The time is now. Ecuador is a small country in territorial terms with great responsibility for the global economy. We are one of the main exporters of banana, shrimp, and chocolate in the world. These products rely entirely on an efficient cold chain to maintain quality and viability. The ability to maintain this cold chain is essential for our economy and for the livelihood of millions of Ecuadorian families. This underscores the relevance of the refrigeration and air conditioning sector, not only for daily lives, but also for global trade and food security. We are convinced that the response to this crisis must be collective and fair. Although we do recognize the commitments of all countries in this process, we must underscore that developing nations face greater constraints. However, these constraints must be matched by robust commitments and concrete actions from the donor countries. We need more financing, we need more support to be able to attain our targets and also to protect our most vulnerable populations. The Montreal Protocol has proven to be an effective tool not only to protect the ozone layer, but also for mitigating climate change, particularly with the Kigali Amendment and HFC phase-out. Therefore, I am pleased to announce that Ecuador has included the phase down of HFC in its second nationally determined contribution, strengthening even more our commitment with the international community. It's a vital step to advance towards a fair and responsible climate transition. Furthermore, we believe that it is essential that we include new concepts such as the circular economy, the life cycle of refrigerants, and regional monitoring of controlled substance emissions. It's crucial that end-of-life refrigerants and equipment are handled safely and responsibly, minimizing their environmental impact. The idea of monitoring at a regional level is an initiative that will ensure effectiveness and transparency in our collective efforts. We know that a change of focus is imperative. It is time for young people to take up a role of leadership so that with renewed energy and new perspectives, they can guide global efforts. It is also essential that this new generation of leaders draw on the experience and knowledge that has been accumulated by the family of the Montreal Protocol for decades, because together we can speed up processes, we can innovate and strengthen our commitments to the future. We'd also like to express our deepest gratitude to international agencies, particularly to the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO. Thanks for the constant support to Ecuador. We'd also like to thank sister countries such as Colombia, Chile, Mexico that have opened their doors for the exchange of knowledge and experiences. Their generosity and cooperation has been invaluable for all of us. We must recall that the success of the Montreal Protocol has always been its ability to adapt, to evolve, and to respond to global challenges. Now, more than ever, we must act swiftly. Every delay has tangible consequences, and every action that we take today will be decisive to guarantee that our planet can be a livable place for future generations. Ecuador commits to continue to work unswervingly with all of you to achieve our shared goals. And we believe that with more financing, commitment, and collaborative leadership, we will be able to achieve the outcomes that our people and our planet need with such great urgency. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now that we have exhausted the list of parties that wish to speak, as indicated this morning, we will give observers that have asked for the opportunity to speak to take the floor. It is now the turn of the International Institute of Refrigeration, Mr. Yosa Aluche, Director General. The next speaker will be the Environmental Investigation Agency, followed by Children and Youth Major Group. Sir, you have the floor. So I would correct myself and say, Madame, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam the President. Esteemed delegates and distinguished members of the Montreal Protocol, Ozone Secretariat. As the head of the delegation of the International Institute of Refrigeration, an intergovernmental organization fostering collaboration and enhancing knowledge on all aspects of refrigeration and heat pumps technologies globally, I commend and reaffirm our commitment to the objectives of the Montreal Protocol, whose noble efforts have set a global precedent in environmental protection and ozone layer preservation. We fully support the activities of the Secretariat and stand ready to engage in the vital transition in sustainable refrigeration sector worldwide. Refrigeration is essential in our current climate context, yet it must be sustainable to protect humans, environment, and climate. A critical component of this sustainability is the adoption of heat pumps, which play an instrumental role in the energy transition for heating in the built environment as well in the industry. At the IIR, we firmly believe that evidence-based policymaking is essential to achieving our environmental and climate targets. We ensure an interactive process that enables effective exchange of knowledge between scientific evidence providers and scientific evidence users. Through this collaboration, we ensure that the latest scientific insights are not only shared, but also provided in a practical and relevant way suitable for policy formation, supporting each of you in making informed and impactful decisions. In line with the outcomes of MOP 35 and ongoing discussions at MOP 36, we recognize that the importance of effective financial mechanisms to support the phase-out of HFCs and the promotion of clean, sustainable alternatives. At the IIR, we are committed to strengthening technology transfer and capacity building initiatives, ensuring that both developed and developing countries have the resources they need for this essential transition. Beyond technical skill building, we will continue strengthening the capacities of national ozone officers by providing resources and training materials on energy efficiency and conducting sectoral assessments, such as those focused on food and health cold chains. Our holistic approach addresses not only ozone layer protection, but also the broader challenges of climate change. Recognizing the challenges posed by accessibility, finance, and infrastructural gaps towards the implementation of sustainable refrigeration, we remain impartial and dedicated to supporting the sector's transition in every country. Moving forward, IIR provides independent support and fosters cross-sector collaboration, remaining committed to this vital mission. We are eager to work hand in hand with each of you. Together, through lasting partnerships, we can reach our shared goals, securing a healthy present and building a sustainable, safe future for the generations to come. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Madam. It is now the turn of the Environmental Investigation Agency, Ms. Avipspa Mahapatra, Climate Campaign Director. Then the next speaker will be Children and Youth Major Group. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you. For nearly 3 decades, the Environmental Investigation Agency has proudly participated in the Montreal Protocol meetings. We are honored to deliver the statement today at the 36th meeting of the parties. 36 years ago, we here made a commitment to protect the ozone layer, a commitment that has proven immensely successful. But beyond the original mandate, the protocol's actions have delivered significant climate co-benefits. By addressing ozone-depleting substances, which are also harmful greenhouse gases, we have avoided up to 2.5 degrees Celsius warming by the end of the century. And with the full and rigorous implementation of the Kigali Amendment alone, we could avert nearly half a degree of global warming. While we have come together to strongly begin implementation of the Kigali Amendment and address unexpected emissions of CFC-11, a concerning amount of ozone depleting and greenhouse gas fluorochemical emissions that are unreported, unaccounted for, and in several cases unexpected, point to continued challenges for the Montreal Protocol. Their primary sources are feedstocks, byproducts, and intermediates in fluorochemical production processes which are not currently controlled. HFC-23 is one example which is being discussed this week. These avoidable emissions amount to almost 500 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year. That is higher than the 22 annual emissions of Germany, Canada, or Mexico. The failure to address these emissions lies primarily with lax monitoring and reporting, which has allowed these damaging activities of the fluorochemical industry to continue unchecked. These continued unaccounted emissions underscore the pressing need for the Montreal Protocol to reassess and strengthen its framework and institutions to ensure that parties can meet all their obligations effectively. Better monitoring of feedstock production and usage, identifying alternatives to ODS feedstocks, resolving gaps in the atmospheric monitoring network, and life cycle refrigerant management are critical related agenda items being discussed by parties that could make this meeting a successful one if resolved. Meanwhile, new threats, including emissions from nitrous oxide and very short-lived substances, also demand immediate action. The Montreal Protocol's past achievements were built on strong institutional foundations, rigorous scientific and technical assessments, and robust financial support from developed countries to assist developing nations. As we face new responsibilities and challenges, we must additionally support and sharpen our implementation strategies to enhance the protocol's effectiveness. So now is the time to modernize compliance mechanisms, strengthen national capacities, and invest in the tools to tackle enforcement challenges head-on and combat illegal production, use, and trade of controlled substances. The EIA calls upon all parties to reaffirm the spirit of the Montreal Protocol and take decisive action on these issues in this meeting, demonstrating once again why the Montreal Protocol remains the world's most successful environmental treaty. We are committed to continuing working alongside to sustain the recovery of the ozone layer, but going beyond that to tackle the urgent global challenge of climate change. Thank you and happy Diwali.
Thank you, Madam. It is now the turn of the Children and Youth Major Group, Zuhair Ahmed Koshik, Global Coordinator. He is the last scheduled speaker for today. Sir, you have the floor.
Thank you for the floor, Madam President. I'm Zuhair Ahmed Koshik from Bangladesh, and it's an honor to stand here today on behalf of the Children and Youth Major Group, the mandated youth constituency to the United Nations Environment Programme. Our theory of change is focused on 3 areas. First, building capacity on skills and knowledge that empower young advocates to drive change. Second, developing robust policy positions and actively engaging in negotiations to amplify youth perspectives. And third, partnering with diverse stakeholders to secure access to UN policy forums, such as this week's joint COP13 and MOP 36. These objectives were embodied in the Youth Forum on Climate Protection held last Sunday, which brought together young people from across the region to learn about the impact of the Montreal Protocol and its contribution to climate protection. We gratefully acknowledge the support of the Ozone Secretariat, UNEP Regional Office for the Asia and the Pacific, the Asian Institute of Technology, and other collaborators in organizing this forum. At the heart of our discussions last Sunday were topics critical to our time. First, we explored how the Paris Agreement can work in harmony with the Kigali Amendment to reduce climate impacts through sustainable and green cooling. We also examined the potential for gender mainstreaming as well as the green jobs and skills in this sector, emphasizing the importance of investing in professional pathways for youth. Together with youth groups and individuals, we discussed the role of energy efficiency in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and supporting the successful implementation of the Montreal Protocol. We concluded with a discussion of the importance of increased financing for ozone and climate action, a critical step if we are to see impactful, long-lasting changes. Building on our engagement, which started at MOP 35 in Nairobi last year, children and youth call upon parties and implementing partners to, first, prioritize youth-focused investments in education and skills, create sustainable green jobs within the cooling industry, and support youth entrepreneurship. Champion youth participation in supporting future youth forums on climate protection at the subsequent MOP sessions, empowering young voices to drive bold, impactful climate solutions worldwide. We urge parties and other partners to allocate resources voluntarily through the Ozone Secretariat to facilitate meaningful youth engagement at the future meetings of the parties, enabling a diverse representation of young voices that can contribute innovative perspectives to ozone and climate protection efforts. Establish a dedicated youth flag in the plenary of MOP and WEG like other MEAs, highlighting the ongoing contributions of young leaders and acknowledging our rightful mandate to engage in these discussions. Align and integrate key environmental agreements, fully embracing the intent of Resolution 6x4 adopted at the 6th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly to drive synergies, cooperation, and collaborative action for national implementation of the multilateral environmental agreements. We strongly urge all parties to embed ambitious targets for sustainable cooling and the phase down of HFCs within the next version of NDCs for the Paris Agreement, solidifying our collective commitment to climate resilience and sustainable development. And most significantly, to take decisive stand by universally ratifying the Kigali Amendment. This step is not just a commitment to phasing down HFCs, it is a powerful decision for our collective resolve to safeguard our climate, protect future generations, and advance sustainable cooling solutions globally. The recently published emissions gap report of UNEP revealed that we are now on a catastrophic trajectory of 2.6 to 3.1 degrees Celsius of warming by 2100. The time for incremental change is over. We must take transformative, impactful steps that prioritize the planet, empower young leaders, and build a resilient future for all. Our message is clear. empower youth as climate leaders, invest in green skills and innovation, and work with us to create a thriving planet. Thank you for the floor.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the end of the statements. I thank all heads of delegations for their inspiring, encouraging, and thought-provoking statements. Let us now turn to the next agenda item, 8. Moving on to agenda item 8 on other matters. As there were no other matters raised at the time of the adoption of the agenda, I will close consideration of this item. Delegates, we are now at the home stretch and need to give the groups that have not yet completed their work the time to do so and report back to the preparatory segment before its closure. We will now break for lunch, but before we do have some logistical announcements that would be accommodated at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The provisional list of participants is available on the meeting portal under the post-session tab. Please use the password indicated to access the list and submit any corrections to the Secretariat to Betty Kamanga and Jacqueline Gitao by 6th of November. The final list will be posted on the meeting portal by 15th of November. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we will now break for lunch and resume the plenary session in the afternoon. We will begin the afternoon by turning to item 6, the report by the co-chairs of the preparatory segment and consideration of the decisions recommended for adoption at COP 13 and by MOP 36. Please watch the screens and the app for the starting time of the afternoon session. In the meantime, the Secretariat is projecting the schedule of meetings that will take place before then. So until that time, have a good lunch and good luck for the remainder of the meetings. The meeting is adjourned.